have Superheavy Samurai. Yes, you read that right, ladies and gentlemen. We have Madolche and way more interesting things out of this OTS-filled weekend. Make sure you guys smash the crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. The first list we're going to be looking at here is none other than a Jinzo Superheavy Samurai list. Now, this actually performed pretty well out of its OTS Championship, making top 4 this weekend here. And the biggest thing I got told for this deck was a lot of opponents just did not read their cards, alright? Didn't read the interactions. And I think that's a very fair and valid point for a deck like this to do well. So we have 1 copy of Jinzo, 2 copies of Jinzo Jector, 1 copy Machina Fortress, 1 of the Battle Ball, triple copies of the Big Benki, we have triple copies of the Big Waraji, we have triple copies of the Samurai Flutist, 1 copy of General Coral, 1 copy of Giga Gloves, 1 copy of the Samurai Helper, 2 copies of Samurai Scales, triple copies of the Soul Buster Gauntlet, 1 copy of the Soul Fire Suit, 1 copy of the Soul Horns, triple copies of the Soul Peacemaker, triple copies of the Soul Piercer, and then we have triple copies of the Samurai Thief, triple copies of the Trumpeter, triple copies of the Superheavy Samurai Wagon, and 1 copy of Sekka's Light here. Now, one big thing I want to point out about this deck is 95% of your restrictions make it so you can't have like any real interactions with spells and traps in your graveyard. That's why something like Sekka's Light in this deck feels a little bit more organic. That way you can, you know, get the value out of this and straight get it out of your graveyard. Down here in the next deck we have the triple copies of the Link 1, which helps out this deck so much. We have 1 Gustav Max with 1 Geargigan X, 1 copy of Vermilion Dragomech, the 2 Susanos, the 1 Musashi, the 1 Steam Train King. We have 1 copy of the Samurai Stealth Ninja, 2 copies of the Ogre Shootin' Doji, 1 Ninja Sarutobi, and 1 copy of the Beast QB. And then we have 2 copies of Exodius. This is just to shovel back some resources. 2 Jinzo Returner, triple Nibiru, triple copies of Spell Canceller, and triple copies of the Stronghold Guardian, wrapping up your very interesting take for Super Heavies. Next up is the Madolche list. And now, the Madolche deck getting the chance to take advantage of some of the new Earth support that we recently got is really good. I haven't seen... I know like the Vernal Lizer Fairy stuff, or the Vernal Swift stuff really did matter in like the beginning of this deck's life, alright? Like it's amazing. I'm glad to see it, but you haven't really seen Madolche do well. So this is like the first record of this we have. So we have triple copies of Angeli, triple copies of the Puting Susior, triple copies of Hoot Hoot Don't Pollute. We have 2 copies of Mageline, 2 copies of Messengelada, 1 Pudding Cess, triple copies of the Awakening Forest, triple copies of Herald of the Orange Light, triple copies of Space Rock, triple copies of Ash Blossom and Joy Spring, triple copies of Effect Veiler, 2 copies of DD Crow, 1 Ghost Bell, 1 Madolche Chateau, 1 Salon, triple copies of Pot of Prosperity, 2 copies of Small World, 1 Called by the Grave, and 2 copies of Promenade here. And then down here in the extra deck, we have the 1 Access Machine, 1 copy of Nightmare Unicorn, 1 Nightmare Phoenix with the 1 Fresh Start, 1 Omega, 1 Baguski, 1 Abyssdweller, 1 Gaia, 1 Zeus, 2 copies of the Glass Fillet, 2 Tiaramisus, and 2 Shokalala Modes. Side deck here we have triple Gamma, 1 copy of Driver, 1 Pinkertops, triple Dark Ruler, triple Cosmic, 1 Red Reboot, and triple copies of Dimensional Barrier here, wrapping up your Madolche list. Now, one thing I do want to say about this list in particular, Prosperity versus Extra means that you don't have to dedicate, I would say, a lot more random stuff to the extra deck, to spinning your wheels and being like, well, you know, I can space things out a little bit more. So it also allows you to specifically grab more interaction points that you need to punish the opponent. Better outs is what I'd like to say. Next up here is our Marincess list. Yes, Marincess actually performed as well this week. You know, like out of like the sphere of like all the rogue decks and everything that we've seen out of this weekend, you know, there might be a lot of wheels that might be spinning, but a lot of people definitely saw a lot of interesting things. And Marincess is once again one of those decks that a lot of players will take a look at and be like, well, you know, Robbie, I don't know how to play the matchup. I just kind of play cards. I mean, that's fair at the end of the day. But you got to understand that if you don't get your ratios and like your card points, your choke points correct, you will lose. I mean, you can say that about any deck, but that's pretty normal. So we have triple copies of Astral Blossom and Joyous Spring, triple copies of Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion, triple copies of the Blue Tang. We got 1 Pascalis, 2 Pascalis, 2 copies of the Seahorse, 1 Sleepy Maiden, triple copies of Spring Girl, triple copies of Space Rocky Boy, with 1 Called By, triple Signet Mining, triple Droplet, 1 Feather Duster, 1 Battle Ocean, 2 Dives, 2 Desires, triple Goes in Match, triple Imperm, and 1 copy of the big old Marincess Wave. Extra down here. We have 1 Splash Splash, 2 Sea Angel, 1 Marbled Rock, 1 Bubble Reef, we have 1 Crystal Heart, 1 Coral Triangle, 2 copies of Coral Anemone, 2 copies of Blue Sluggeroo, 1 Argonaut, 1 Iria, 1 Stealth Kraken, and 1 Abyss Dweller. And then we have triple copies of DD Crow, triple copies of Gamma Seal, triple copies of Lightning Storm, triple copies of Twin Twisters, and triple copies of Dimensional Barrier here, wrapping up our take for Marincess. I think the most interesting thing about this deck is just, not only do you like establish like an Argonaut that's like fully protected, you also like set up things like, you know, your many floodgates, you have protection via Sleepy Maiden. Honestly, this deck is just scary for what it puts on the field, and especially like if your opponent's not prepared for it, they just kind of get choked out. Next up is a Pendulum list. What? When was the last time that you saw Pendulums do really anything? This deck actually ended up winning its OTS championship. I actually think that that's awesome, alright? Considering the fact that, you know, I know, Scythe Lock, Robbie. I get it, man. It's not exactly the greatest thing in the world, but it's still something at the end of the day. So we have 1 copy of Artifact Scythe because, you know, it's amazing. We have 1 Astrograph Sorcerer, 1 copy of the Black Fang Magician, triple copies of Chronograph, triple copies of the Double Iris, triple copies of the Harmonizing Magician, 2 copies of Magician Souls, triple copies of Oath Dragon. We have 1 Celestial Magician, 1 copy of Summon Sorcerer, 1, 2, 3 Skullcrabat Jokers, 1 Purple Poison Friend. We have 1 Time Gazer, 2 copies of Tuning Magician, 1 copy of White Fang, triple copies of the Wisdom Eye, 1 copy of Dragon Pit, 1 Call by the Grave, triple copies of Duelist Alliance, triple copies of Pendulum Call, 2 copies of Pod Desises, 1 Star Pendulum Graph, and 1 Time Pendulum Graph. Ooh. Down here in the extra, we have 1 Underworld Goddess, 1 Selene, 1 Dahark, 1 Hauk, 1 Beyond the Pendulum, 1 Dagda, 1 Artemis, 1 Apo, 1 Axis Machine, 1 Time Star, 1 Baguski, 1 Abyss Dweller, 1 TG Wonder Magician. You love the fact you can just rotate into this off of your Scythe and just laugh at your opponent. We have 1 Borreload Savage, and 1 Baron de Fluer. So I agree with 2 Lava Golems, 2 Space Rocks, 1 Cowboy for Time, 2 Cosmic Cyclones, triple Dark Ruler, 1 Feather Duster, triple Evenly Matched, and 1 copy of Red Reboot here. Wrapping up your Pendulum special. And I honestly think it's pretty cool just to see like little differences within the format here and things that you can test and actually find success with. And the last here is Tearlaments. Oh boy, you know, there has to be 1 meta deck along the way here, and I think overall, even like if the format doesn't look super healthy, super fun, super amazing, it is still kind of cool to see like the different interactions and things that people are bringing to the table for this deck, even if it looks standard. I will say that like the Shadell package in here to make Winda is kind of saucy. This is kind of what we were expecting the game to go towards, but just never really did. We have 2 copies of Mothman, triple Nessie, 1 Jackalope, the 1 Tsuchinoko with the 1 Snow. We have 1 Shaddoll Beast with 1 Squamata, triple copies of Havness, triple copies of Merly, triple copies of Reno Heart, triple copies of Shayren, 1 Called by the Grave, 1 Foolish Bro, 1 Instant Fusion, 1 Mystic Mind, triple copies of Paralineo, 1 Rhoda, triple copies of Super Polymerization, 1 Terraforming, triple Imperm, and your triple copies of Solic here. Extra here we have 1 Zeroboros, 1 Sprite Elf, 1 Avramax, 1 IP, your 1 Dahark, your 1 Curious, 1 Time Thief Reader, 1 Abyss Dweller, 2 Kitagalos, 1 Kaleido Heart, 1 Draco Stapelia, 1 Mud, 1 Garuda, and 1 Winda. Side deck here we got triple Ghost Reaper, triple Lava Golem, 2 Cosmic Cyclone, 1 Feather Duster, triple copies of Anti-Spell, and triple copies of Evenly Matched here. Wrapping up your chunk of, I would say, very interesting deck profiles. So what do you guys think about all the cool stuff out of OTS Championship weekend here? Please leave a comment down below, tell me what you guys think, and I will see your beautiful faces back here later on in the day, guys. Peace out. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.